welcome to Families for Life with Bryan and Brian, a podcast of Oak Hill Baptist Church.
On this episode, we're going to do our Christmas special part 2. Up on the housetop, reindeers
click.
fall.
Oh, wrong chorus.
Down. Oh,
I
man.
messed it up, bro.
I don't even know how these songs go. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm good until we ruined that song. That made me,
I really
that
don't
actually
know. I don't know the words to actual
hurts my heart.
songs. I make them up as I go along.
That's kind of what I do too. I actually have taken one of the Christmas songs and turned it into a song that I sing to my son whenever I'm
like Jingle Bells, Batman Smells.
kind of like a little different than that.
Okay.
It's people will make fun of me if I share it on the air, so I'm just
Maybe
gonna keep
we'll
it
do
to
at the end of
myself.
the show.
Put it on the bloopers.
Well, this is our Christmas special part 2. Last week we talked about how the church can engage and encourage people to do Christmas, and
Right.
then we also talked about some history, some theology, and stuff like that. So today,
Some
what are
good
we going to
stuff.
talk about today, Brian?
Yeah, today we're going to just talk about how families can really take Christmas and focus on the reason for the season, right? To focus on Christ and how to celebrate Christmas in a way that really brings out the beauty and the joy that Christmas can be because you're focusing on the real thing.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to start off by just talking a little bit about holiday traditions. And so, Brian, what are some things that you, maybe as you were growing up and maybe now as a family, what do you guys do as a family?
Sure, yeah. So, first of all, I got to give a disclaimer that I had some dental work done this morning, and so my mouth is still numb. So if I'm slurring my speech or anything, it's because of the dental work.
That's right.
I
Sure.
did not get into the eggnog this morning. Okay? It's a little early for that.
Yep.
So yeah, we, growing up did a lot of the traditional stuff. It's hard for me to disassociate my childhood memories from going to my grandparents' house. That was a big part of it. Now, my grandfather has passed away. My grandmother is in a nursing home. And so we don't get to do that anymore, but I really cherish those memories. And those are really fond memories of Christmas, going to, Christmas Eve. Aunts and uncles would come over and they would all exchange gifts, between each other. And every, my stepdad and every uncle always got a fresh pair of socks. So guys, if your socks have holes in them or your underwear has holes in it, just wait. Christmas
Is coming. It's so true.
So then, we always had shrimp and kind of like finger foods on Christmas Eve, went to church. Then we got up Christmas morning. And then they would fix a big Christmas dinner, steaks or ham or something, on Christmas Day. And just a lot of being together as a family and hanging out, Yeah. We always watched, with my dad, we always watched Christmas Vacation and stuff like that, some fond memories like that. But it all revolved around family, spending time together and hanging out. Cramped sleeping on the floor, cramped car rides, stuff like that.
Yep.
Those are in the moment were probably, probably there was a lot of, like discomfort, but looking back on it, you think about it fondly, as today as our family, I always try to take some time off around Christmas and we spend time together. We do some of the traditional things like, going to church together, of course. And, I don't know, some of the holiday traditions have varied. When the kids were little, we used to go visit Santa Claus. We used to drive to Santa Claus, Indiana.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And see the real Santa Claus.
Right.
I'm doing finger quotes here.
Yep.
The real Santa Claus. And we would, go to Lake Rudolph and see the lights and do all that kind of stuff. And so, we try to observe some of those traditions, and we'll talk more about some of the spiritual things that we do as a family as we go along. But those are some of the fond memories that we have.
Yeah, that's really good, man.
What about you?
Yeah, for us, we, obviously putting up the Christmas tree was, a big deal. And that, as I got older, that kind of became a thing that I took on myself. I was like, it was always like, okay, Brian's going to start putting up the Christmas tree. And we would all do that together. And part of that was just because it was, I think it was easier for parents to allow their eldest to do that instead of them having to do it, which is great. You know, that's why you have kids, right? So that they can do things for you. And, and so, that was a lot of fun. And, but we all did it together and put it up and stuff. But, you know, as you're talking, it did remind me, I did love, you know, same sort of deal with my grandfather. Like, he's gone, my grandma's in a nursing home, so we don't get to do that. But we'd always get together with our extended family and have this big family exchange of gifts, and man, it was so good. And I remember when my grandfather passed away, we went to their house after the funeral. We were all sitting around. It's the last time we've been together, and we were all sitting around. We were just talking about those times, and it was so good to just. It felt like we were doing that again, and so we haven't done that for a couple of years now, and you know, maybe one day we'll get to do that again. But anyways, one of the things for me, this is kind of random, but I have this Lionel Train, and if there's anybody out there that knows anything about these things, they're cool. You know, it makes its own smoke and everything, and it's as old as I am. So my entire life, this has just been a thing.
You put it up around the
Christmas tree. I haven't the last couple years because, you know, we've got a toddler and now a newborn.
Right.
But yeah, normally I put it around the Christmas tree, and it's just so cool. You just turn that thing on, and it goes around. And so obviously caroling and doing things like that. I love cooking with my mom at Christmas time.
What foods do you think of when you think of Christmas?
Man, it's so funny because my dad actually brought some into me this morning. My dad works here at the church as a maintenance guy, and he brought. We just call them sausage balls, and it's sausage, Bisquick, and cheese, man. And that stuff is so good.
So good.
We make it every Christmas, and then you take crackers and put peanut butter in between them, and then dip them in chocolate. That speaks to me. That's like my love language right there.
Yeah, we always make puppy chow.
Yeah,
That's a big holiday. You know, you get a big tin of puppy chow and just eat on that.
Oh yeah, you can just see that. That's dangerous. So that's dangerous. That goes back to our other series. We got to watch out. Got
to portion that out a little bit.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I love that, and so I really look forward to. You know, it's like a thing to go shopping just to get ingredients for baking and cooking and doing all that stuff. And then watching Christmas movies is a huge deal. I love all, you know, there's all these memes and posts about what's the best Christmas Carol edition, you know, or version that's out there right now. And I love them all. I just love them all.
The Muppets is the best, by the way.
I love them all. But yeah, there's
we watched Elf when we put up our tree.
Elf's a great movie.
Yeah, Elf's awesome.
I really like Elf. They actually do pull a lot of elements from different traditional Christmas movies.
Well, now that you said, there's a documentary on Netflix that kind of goes behind the scenes of Elf.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Some of that stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, I always think of like the mail room of that show is like hearkening to Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, yeah.
In the mail aspect. So anyways.
It goes back to those old Rudolph.
Yes. Oh, those
movies.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, and then It's a Wonderful Life. That's the best Christmas movie. That's the best Christmas movie. And so I love that stuff. And we do that. We watch all that stuff. It's a Wonderful Life was written by a Van Doren, by the way.
Wow.
I don't know if you knew that. So yeah, now you know. So it doesn't really matter, but
no
relation.
Frank Capra film.
Yeah,
so he's a famous director. No one.
That's true.
No one remembers the writer.
Nobody remembers the writer. Yeah, and no relationship. It doesn't even matter. But anyways, these things are all really important. Like traditions matter, and they have a lot of powerful memories behind them. But there can be a dangerous side to traditions. Do you agree with that, Brian?
Yeah, I think that if we focus on the traditions and we miss like the moment of having fun with our family, you know, and even like in, you know, the movie Christmas Vacation, Clark is so focused on having the good old fashioned Christmas. He misses the time he gets to spend with his family. And, you know, like we both said, we have family that's gone. Many of you probably do as well. And we can't get so wrapped up in, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do that, that we miss the time to spend with our family, the time of going to church, focusing on Christ. All those types of things must be our what we do at the holidays, and then those traditions and stuff kind of filter in that.
Right.
Is that kind of what you're thinking?
I fully agree with that, and especially for me, I think about traditions that I had when I was a kid, and you got to be careful not to, as you're older and you have kids, and maybe for those of you listening have great grandkids, you don't want to force your experiences onto them if that's not. You want to make new traditions, because these are not everybody's exactly the same.
Right.
And the tradition needs to be focused on something else. It's not about the tradition. It's about, first, it's about Christ. The tradition, there has to be some way in which the tradition either points you to Christ or at least doesn't distract you from Christ. And that's, to me, it's not like looking at Christmas lights isn't necessarily going to make you worship Jesus, but it's not going to distract you from Christ.
Right.
But yeah, if your tradition is keeping you from loving Jesus and loving your family well, then it probably needs to go.
Yeah, it's got to be about making the true meaning of Christmas all about Christ.
Yeah.
Some of these other things are fun, and we're going to talk more about some of this stuff, but I really think that if things are if we're missing, so it's okay to do traditions and do all the other things, but if we don't focus on the spiritual aspect, or if we're neglecting that because we're doing all this other stuff,
right?
We need to kind of reevaluate those traditions.
Yeah, the weight of Christmas, the thing that needs to feel the most valuable in Christmas time is Christ.
Yeah.
And all these other things are great and wonderful, but they cannot outweigh Jesus at this time. And that's something that I know I really have to focus on. I have to make that intentional. And so it's important that we don't over prioritize the traditions, and just make it about the meaning of Christmas, the real meaning of Christmas.
What are some ways that we can really engage with the spiritual meaning?
Yeah, that's the big thing, because if we know that's true, I mean, there's got to be ways to do that. I know for me and my family, one of the traditions that we did, and this was something that it was a part of everything we did, was the Advent candles. Okay, and so we would, and I was homeschooled, and so we had the luxury of being able to have basically a Bible study at the beginning of every day. So for the first, for the 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas, we would light one candle that would symbolize an aspect of the biblical story leading up to Christ's birth, so prophecy and preparation and joy and love, and leading all the way up to Christ and salvation itself. And we just had Bible studies every day. And so on Christmas morning, before we opened presents, we did the Christ candle. We lit the Christ candle and talked about...
For those that don't know, it's the purple candles, and then you have the one white candle in the center.
So it's like 3 purple, 1 pink, and 1 white. There's different variations, there's all sorts of things you can find online. Man, but
it all has a spiritual meaning that goes along with it.
Well, and we're doing it with my little toddler now, and he loves it, because he loves to light the candle, and now he's trying to blow it out at the end. It's just fun, and so that was a huge part for me growing up, and just keeping that central amidst all of the other things. But what are some other things, Brian?
Yeah, one of the things that we do is we have what are called adornments.
Adornments. That's cool.
So I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. They came out years ago by Family Life. The set I have, my parents gave me.
Oh, wow.
And they're little ornaments that represent something. And so you can do it different ways. There's 12 of them. And so we have a 12-day devotion leading up to Christmas.
That's awesome.
So every night we'll put one ornament up on the tree. We'll go through the devotion. And I think it's just a great idea to help us kind of focus on, it goes all the way through the whole Christmas story.
Yeah.
And so, my dad would always read the Christmas story on Christmas Eve or Christmas.
Yep.
And so that's a tradition, but this kind of helps spread it out a little bit, especially if you have littles, and they get to have the funness of putting the ornament on the tree. We let them participate and do that.
Yeah,
so.
Man, that's cool. Yeah, that's a great thing. We've got a thing that we're trying to help families with in our church this year, just with a family devotional. It's a 25-day family devotional, and I've heard from some of the students they're going through it and they're enjoying it, and that's been encouraging to me to just know. And some families are doing this devotional together, so that's one option. And there's so many out there that you can choose from. You can just type in Christmas devotional on Google, and you'll find something that you'll want to use. So that's a great way to do it. But there's something that you like to do. It's not on our notes, but the birthday cake to Jesus. Did you talk about that?
So we talked about
week?
that in the last episode.
Okay, we did.
But so this is something our church encourages, but it does bleed over into families because we're encouraging our families to take. We provide a cake mix, a frosting, one candle, and a devotional. And so the idea is the whole family gets together. This works great, especially with younger kids. Helps them to kind of focus on what the meaning of Christmas is. So there are some questions you can kind of icebreaker questions. Then as your cake is baking, you do the Christmas story devotional that I have written out.
Yeah.
And it's very question oriented. It's for all ages. It does help, some of the very littles will have to kind of, you have to help them with it.
Yeah.
But then when you pull the cake out and you decorate it, then you can sing happy birthday to Jesus.
Yeah.
Blow out the candle and everybody gets to eat cake. And so it's just a good reminder to those kids like, hey, we're celebrating Jesus' birth. That's why we're doing this.
Well, one thing, as you were just mentioning that, I was just thinking right now, like a lot of these things are great for like little kids. And so if you're a parent and you're like, well, I have a teenager and they're going to hate all of these things.
Well, who hates cake though?
Well, that's true. That is true. I mean, come on, you should love that. But here's the thought. I was just trying to think through, like, why did I love this? And one of the reasons why is because my parents gave me the responsibility of making it happen.
Yeah.
So in a lot of these devotions, I actually, would lead one from time to time. And so I got to read. I got to, for Advent, for the Advent candles, I got to light the candle and explain what it was about. Not because I knew better than anyone else, but just because my parents wanted me to have that role. And that made me feel like I was really like doing something. I'm doing this. It's my responsibility. And that helped me take some ownership and really think about it myself.
That's good.
So I would encourage parents to just get your teenagers involved in being the ones to make it happen. Don't treat them like little children as you're trying to do it to them.
Right.
Let them lead you some.
Yeah.
See how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Another way is, help your family find ways to give and to serve to others. There's in our church, we have our Lottie Moon Christmas offering. That's a great opportunity to give money. There's also lots of charities. Our food pantry does a gift giveaway. And I know those are church things, but we're really encouraging the family to get involved. You can do even simple things like you bake cookies for your neighbors and have the kids go deliver them. Now in this season, you have to drop them off at the door and ring the doorbell and
right.
Let them,
take it socially distanced and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
But we got to find ways of giving and serving. If we can help our children see the aspect of serving during this season of giving, I mean, that's what Christ came for, is to give his love, to give salvation.
Well, you say that reminds me something my uncle would do, him and his family. They would always, he called it the Jesus gift. And so every year at Christmas time, they would find somebody who just needed help, and then they would, and I might have mentioned this before, but they would take a Christmas dinner and they would take presents and just basically give, these things that we do at Christmas time to this family that needed it. And that was beautiful, man. I went with him a couple different times to do that. And you just see the thankfulness and the people who are receiving these gifts. That's what it looks like for us to receive the love of Christ. And that's a great way to do that. We all need that in our lives. So if you can provide that for somebody, that's good.
Yeah. One final thing is just make church a big part of Christmas. Go to church, go do the activities, do the different things. If you can't be there physically right now, do the online stuff, but don't let your children disassociate the holidays from it being about Jesus. Make make that part of the tradition.
Well, and that's one of the things that's interesting is we're talking like so much of this just ties together with the church, you know. And I was watching some YouTube videos about people, just on the streets saying what Christmas meant to them, and it basically, man, you get some of the craziest answers, but it's like, I get time off from work and I have dinner with my family, and like, I get presents, and I'm like, man, that's it. Like, that's all it is to you. But when you have your church family and you have the true meaning of Christmas, just driving your celebration of Christ, oh man, it's so much bigger than that. So all these things are really, really good, but there are some things at Christmas time that are kind of like Christmas conundrums. Dun, dun.
I like how you alliterated that.
Well, I don't know that I think you wrote that down, so.
Well, I know that a lot of people struggle with presents. I shouldn't say a lot of people struggle with it. I think people try to, I think presents are a great way to display generosity. I think it's a great way to talk about the gift of Christ. Presents are a good thing. There are some people that on both ends of the spectrum that don't give very many presents.
Right.
There's people that give a lot
Way
of presents.
too many presents, yeah.
I think we got to be careful and make sure our kids know that Christmas is not primarily about presents.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to get some stuff. It's going to be fun. You'll get some new toys or whatever, but that's just a part of it. That's not the reason for it. Kind of like you were saying with those people on the street. You know?
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. You're right. It's Christmas presents. There's the whole, everyone loves to talk about commercialism at Christmas time. It's like you never hear the word commercialism until Christmas comes around. And you've got, like you said, you've got people on one side that are eat up with commercialism. And then you've got other people on the other side that are like, I won't do anything for Christmas time because of commercialism. And I think the balance is there, I mean, the reason for presents really comes from the fact that Christ is God's gift to the world. Right. And then you have not three, but you have the wise men who brought the three gifts to Christ. And so you've got this exchange of gifts from God to the world and from man to the king. And that's what we're doing.
Right.
And you can make gift giving exactly about that.
Right.
But we've got to make sure we do it.
Yeah. And it can be, it can be tough because different people, for instance, if somebody has lost a job or, it can be a fairly, parents can have a lot of guilt.
Yes.
They can struggle. If some family may be able to provide everything and another family just a few things. So I think we got to be careful, especially in the pressure we put on one another.
Yeah. And,
I've seen some people try to limit themselves. We've not done this ourselves, but some people try to here's one toy, here's a book, here's some clothes. Here, they try to make it a well-rounded kind of Christmas, and not just all about giving them like a million presents.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that can be really helpful because you don't want to. It reminds me of like in Harry Potter. There's the first movie, there's the scene with the brother or the stepbrother or whatever, and he comes down for his birthday.
Oh, he has,
and he's like, "What, 37? But last year I had 38.
One less present than I had last year."
Like, dude, come on, bro. Yeah. And that's the way kids can get if you're not careful at Christmas time.
Yeah, we don't want to breed ungrateful, selfish children.
Right.
We want them to really think, okay, these are presents that we want to give you because we love you. So be thankful, be grateful for them.
Which means we got to check our own hearts and make sure we're not being that way ourselves. Right. So that's really important. And, that makes me think of the Christmas Carol, the movie, just as you were talking, Brian, about some people don't have as much and some people have more. Man, the Cratchits, they are a perfect example of what Christmas should look like in our homes, whether you're rich or poor. Tiny Tim is focused on Christ, and he tells, I hope people see me so that they remember who came, the one who came, who heals lame beggars and makes blind men see. And they're in their home with nothing, and they're having the best time. And that's one of the biggest things that really changes Scrooge's heart, was seeing really it's the love of Christ in a home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I might be reading into that a little bit, but I think if you watch it carefully, you'll see that's there. And if they can have that, man, I can have that.
Yeah.
You know, we have more than 17th century English people had.
Right. Yes.
So
Yes.
we can have a good Christmas.
Yes.
So anyways, I know that was a lot for that,
Yeah.
but there's
Let's
the big
talk
one.
about
the big one.
The big one.
Yeah.
The big jolly man, Santa. If you have kids right now and they are listening, you may want to put them in another room or
avert their ears.
Turn it off and listen to it later.
We'll be
because
sensitive,
We're gonna talk about Santa. You know, again, there's a spectrum. Especially in Christians, there are some Christians that are like, "Hey, we're all about Santa." There are some that like Santa is not a part of our Christmas.
Right? Yeah. Uh-huh.
And again, I would advocate for a balanced approach. Any family can do whatever they want.
Right.
I mean, that's their
It's
prerogative.
your family. You
pray
right.
about it. You see how God leads you. Here's what we do in our family, and I'll just tell you.
Yeah, I want to hear.
And then you can. So we let the kids believe in Santa, but however, we don't like propagate it. Like it's not like, oh, Santa's watching, you better be good.
Right.
You know, we do not believe in using Santa as discipline.
Yeah.
In fact, we don't.
Or like
we try
bribing.
not to bribe.
Yeah.
Or do it. You know, we need you to obey because that's the right thing to do.
Right.
As a person, and then if you don't obey, you're going to face consequences.
Right.
You know, and so obviously we reward our kids and we do those kind of things, but we try to not tie that to discipline necessarily all the time. However, Santa brings, most of the presents are wrapped up under the tree. And Santa brings a big present and a stocking, kind of thing. So yes, it's a part of it. At this point, most of our kids know that Santa's not real. I hate even saying that.
I know, it's terrible.
We
already said it. Parents, sorry.
My littlest one is questioning, like, because of his older siblings.
He's so smart. He's just so smart.
And he is questioning whether Santa is real or not.
He's got you on the fence too.
And he wants me to, he thinks that, he's like, well, I think you eat the cookies and you drink the milk. And now that he wants to set up a camera to catch Santa.
I think you need to mess with him. I think you need to just mess with him.
He wanted to stay up all night and catch Santa. Now he wants to set up a camera to take pictures. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's this whole thing. That's more than we've ever like discussed Santa with any of our kids growing up. So it's really kind of funny to watch all this. But, you know, there is some like fun kind of magic to it, you know, but if a parent doesn't want to do Santa, I'm not upset about it.
Of course.
It doesn't bother me if they don't want to participate in that. I would not ruin the fun for other kids.
Right.
And that's the hard thing.
Yeah.
Kids go to school, they talk to their other kids, you know, and you don't want to ruin that for other families.
Right. That's huge. Yeah, I think that's really important. And that's kind of the conundrum is that, you know, one of the things is even if you don't want, you know, like if you're like, no, we're not doing that, that's fine. Again, like really, it's okay. But the problem is a young child is probably going to still believe in Santa anyways because of their friends and whatnot. And that's, you know, you got to be able to deal with that without just like breaking your kid.
Right.
And so like I've heard stories of people who are like, you know, oh, well, when I found out, it was like, you know, my parents had lied to me my whole life and blah, blah, blah. And that to me really builds the first principle is like, we really need to be careful not to lie. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was great about growing up for us is I think my parents, they might have, you know, we might have tried to pin them and be like, tell me, you know, is he? And they might have just been like, yes, okay, gosh, leave me alone. But normally it was very much of a, well, what do you think sort of thing. And it was always put back on us as to what we thought. Right. And the more I thought about this, the more I think it should be treated kind of like an imaginary friend. Like if your kid came up to you and was like, hey, you know, Bob's here. And you're like, Bob? I'm like, yeah, he's right here. You're not going to be like, now listen, you're delusional. Yeah. Bob's not real. Right. And like, you're not going to do that. Right. Like you'll set a place at the table and be like, oh, here you go, Bob. You know, you'll do that stuff. And I think that's okay. But like you said, bribing and using like the song, you know, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout.
Santa Claus is watching.
And that's a fun song. I'm not saying that song's bad or anything, but that can't be our real attitude. Right. You know, we can't be like, hey kid, you know, and for instance, I'm never going to give my kids coal at Christmas time.
Well, right. And I think we got to make sure we can use this to teach the gospel as
That's
well.
exactly, yep.
And to not say, well, really none of us are good. The Bible
Right.
tells us that
we're all bad.
all are sinful.
Yeah.
And we need redemption. We need grace.
And
so
that's right.
Even
Keep going.
if you
Yes.
are bad, you still get presents. That's
Yes.
not the reason you do or don't get presents, but that doesn't excuse our sinfulness.
That's right.
We need Christ. And that's kind of my next point is I don't mind doing Santa as long as Jesus is the main star of Christmas. If Jesus is
Preach.
like the ultimate focus, and then Santa kind of is there but takes kind of a back seat as like another fun tradition, I'm okay with that.
Right.
But if Santa is everything, like Santa's like 70-80% and Jesus is like 20%,
right?
That's not
a
good.
problem. And the reason why it's a problem is not just because that's the wrong way to do it. No, it's because what's going to happen is your kids are really going to struggle with that.
Right.
Like for me, I know when I found out, it was disappointing. I was like bummed, but I was also like, well, that's okay.
Well,
because that's not the biggest part of Christmas for me.
Yeah, I didn't really remember being like upset or being like my parents lied to me like that. I don't know that.
I never felt that way because they
head.
didn't. My parents didn't. But I know a lot of parents, I know people who are my age and older whose parents did. And I'm not trying to judge or anything like that. They were doing the best they could, and that was that was the norm. It's the norm today. I mean, even on like the Weather Channel, they're like tracking Santa and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like that might not be helpful.
All of culture, all of kind of Christmas culture pushes towards Santa.
Yeah.
And that's okay in one sense, but just as Christians, we need to counterbalance that and make sure that our kids know, hey, this holiday, this season is about Jesus.
That's right. Well, and I want to make it clear because I even before this podcast, I asked you what you thought that I thought about this topic, and I want to make it clear. Oh, I know you were, but you said kind of how you guys do it. I'm basically 100% the same as how you guys are doing it, and we're kind of beginning in our personal family, but growing up, that's how we did it. Mm-hmm. And I love Santa. I love him today. I have Santa on my desk at work. I actually like love Santa. But I love Jesus like way, way, way more.
Right, exactly.
And all of it it's all a piece of pointing me to Christ.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do with the idea of Santa Claus.
Yeah. Once again, I think it's balance. I that's a huge theme in my life.
Yeah.
And I think is just trying to find the balance in everything. We don't want to be like the church lady. I told you yesterday, and you didn't even get this reference.
I didn't even know.
The church lady is like, if you rearrange the letters in Santa, it spells Satan. So, we don't want to be like that.
Right.
But we also don't want to be totally just sold out to all of Christmas. Listen, Christmas culture.
Yeah.
It can be about consumerism. It can be about what do I get? Give me. And I think we have to push back against that as Christians and say that's not what this holiday is about.
Well, and here's the thing, everyone experiences this, post-Christmas depression, right? And I think a lot of that comes from this really leaning into Christmas culture too much, as far as like letting that be what Christmas is about. And Christmas should not leave us depressed afterwards. Christmas should leave us hoping for the future and the returning of Christ. And so if we feel that, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel it sometimes. And so I'm not saying this like I never feel this way. This is me like speaking to myself. I have to make this about Jesus, because if I make this about the American Christmas culture, which is not just American, I've been in other countries at Christmas time, and it's everywhere. People love Christmas everywhere in the world. If we only deal with it that way, we will walk away from Christmas sadder than ever. And so Jesus is our hope and our joy, and it's not just for a season, it's for all of life.
Yeah.
And that's why I love Christmas so much. And so
so lean into the family time, lean into doing fun traditions, whatever your family does. It's great because everybody's family is a little different.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love hearing about all that. but also make sure it's about Jesus.
Yeah.
Find intentional ways and intentional times that you can put the focus on Christ during this time.
Yeah. And that's exactly, the easy, like, here's just one quick example as we go. This morning, my son, he's learning words, and he loves trees. He loves Christmas trees. And so he's seeing pictures of Christmas trees, and he'll point at that and go, tree. And then he'll point to our tree and say, tree. And I'm like, that's a tree. And then I will say to him, and he has no idea what I'm saying, but I'll say to him, and the lights on the tree are just like stars shining through the trees. And that reminds us of the star that points to Christ. He has no idea what I'm talking about, but we're getting things rolling.
Right.
We're getting things started.
Right.
And that's one way you can do it. You can take anything.
Yeah,
and
if you
point
have
it to
really
Christ.
little kids, your little kids' Bible and read the
yeah.
birth of Christ through that. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to go through Matthew or
Right,
go
yeah.
through Luke chapter 2 or something like that. Do whatever age appropriate things that those kids can do.
That's awesome. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, man, I don't know if there's more that we can talk about. I mean, there probably is, but we don't need to.
Jesus is the reason for the season. Yeah.
Amen. That's cliche, but it's never not going to be true.
I worked at a Christian bookstore when I was a teenager, and that was on everything, on
Yeah.
pillows and mugs and everything. But it always has stuck with me that needs to be our reason. Jesus needs to be our reason for
people
the season.
literally don't know. They literally, you ask them what Christmas is really about,
Yep.
and they don't know.
We as Christians can be a light, be a testimony during
Amen.
this time.
Yep.
So,
Let's do that.
all right. Well, you guys have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And this will be our last full episode for the year. Now, we've got something special planned over the next couple weeks. We're doing mini episodes.
Oh, they're even better because they're short.
You only got to listen to this for a few minutes.
Yeah, it's great.
But hopefully the next 4 weeks, we're going to have 4 mini episodes, and then we'll have a brand new series coming back in January that we most certainly know what it is and what it's going to be and have it all planned out.
100%.
Not really. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Die Hard. I don't know what I feel about that. Is it a Christmas movie? It happens at Christmas.
I just don't even care.
It's Christmas adjacent.
To me, it's
Christmas adjacent.
It's an argument that people like to make happen just for the sake of arguing about something that doesn't matter.
Now, Nightmare Before Christmas.
That to me is much more of a Halloween movie than anything.
A lot of people say it's a Christmas movie.
I think you can watch it at Christmas time.
If you go to the store, they market it as a Christmas movie.
Well, on like Hulu or whatever. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's Disney. It's a Christmas. They have it under Christmas as well. Mm-hmm. So they probably have it under both. But I think that's dumb.
My son loves that movie.
Does he really? What, Carson?
No, my